I hope you can hear me. I'm trying out a new microphone and wait for 4 o'clock to happen. Really strange side effects of the microphone, I think. It would be great if you could confirm that you can hear me, whoever is listening. Thank you so much. And I will figure out how I can get this on my computer so I don't miss any questions. Hi. It's almost 4 o'clock. I think I joined a little bit too early, but I guess it gives more people a chance to join and be in the know about what I'm going to talk about today. So yeah, I'll just leave a couple more minutes, and it gives me a chance to explore the Instagram Live interface a little bit more too. Oh, thank you so much for joining, everybody. It's lovely to have all of you here on this Q&A about the upcoming sweater pattern, Eternum sweater. For some reason it flickers for me every once in a while. I hope it doesn't do that to you. Just throws me off the track, and yeah. A few more seconds. It feels like a year has gone by since I since I started this live, but it's actually been just a couple of minutes. Time is really taking some time. But yeah, I will be recording. I will be posting a recording of this as well. So I guess if anyone does miss the beginning, to rewatch the start of it. I'm Jeanette from Jeanette Knits, and this is a live Q&A on my upcoming pattern that comes out next week. It's called the Eternum sweater, and I will explain the name in a little bit, but it looks like that. It is so warm and cozy, and yeah, even thinking about wearing it right now in my studio is giving me hot flashes. So this is why I'm not wearing it, and it's also easier for me to talk about the construction of it if it's just in my hands. So that's that. The sweater, what I hope to tell you today is the following. I will talk about the inspiration for this sweater, the idea, the gauge and needles, the yarn and the alternatives, the sizing and schematics, construction and techniques. So all of that I usually squeeze into the first 2 pages of the pattern, but because it's not out yet, and it's yeah, I will probably mention some more things and elaborate a little bit more on some things in this live than just in the patterns, the bare minimum. So let's start with the inspiration. And the inspiration for this sweater was entirely my daughter. She had sent me a photo of similarly looking sweaters throughout the last year, and just asking, Mom, can you make this? Can you make this? Can you make this? And finally, when I asked her what she wanted for Christmas, she said, just make me one of the sweaters that I sent you. So yeah, together we came up with this design. Well, together, I mean, she came up with the design of how she wanted it to look. And my doing was the construction and the execution and the pattern writing. So yeah, the design decisions are entirely hers. So for example, the really, really long sleeves is her doing. The sleeves without ribbing at the end, and the bottom as well has no ribbing. So that is her choice. And the neck with the button bands and the collar, that's also all her desires. So I'm fulfilling her desires. She is very happy with how it turned out, and she wears it, I can't say non-stop, but pretty much like I couldn't ask for more, which is why I also called it the Eternum sweater, because I hope that she will cherish it forever. It was a long time coming for her, and she finally got it. And yeah, she does not, sorry, it will not go out of fashion, is another reason why I'm calling it the Eternum sweater, because it's so timelessly classic in its look that it can be a wardrobe staple forever. But this little button band and the neck adds it a little bit of a differentiator and sets it apart from maybe other patterns out there. So yeah, I hope that you'll give it a go too, if this is your style. It's meant to be oversized, but to cover the sizing, the finished chest circumference is from 93 centimeters to 166. And in inches that would be from 37 to 66. So yeah, there's a big range, and you can make it as tight or loose or comfortable as you want. It is also made in a rather large gauge, so that means it's a fairly quick knit, and there isn't too much shaping or complication, so it becomes a TV project very quickly. So yeah, I think I don't remember how long it took me, but it was one of those really yeah 1, 2, 3 and done sort of things. So the gauge specifically is 18 stitches and 26 rows in this 4x2 ribbing pattern. And I suppose that means you could use a DK weight yarn up to worsted weight yarn. The yarn that I used was this, I hope it's showing in the right direction, Genmu from Daruma. And it's an interesting yarn because it's like a very loosely spun single, plied with a thread of some sort. I don't even know if the single underneath is actually plied. So some unspun yarn could be easily substituted because I am holding it together with Kids Silk Mohair. So this is not the color that I used, but this is the type of yarn. So these two together, I think this is supposed to be DK, and then adding that on top gave me a really nice combination. It's really warm. One note about the yarn choice is that yeah, it shouldn't be too thick. So I have said in the pattern that you can use a worsted weight as an alternative, but it should be lofty and not too dense. because of the detail that is in the button neck. So the button band is double knit, and testing this sweater proved that true worsted weight and worsted spun yarn is perhaps not the best choice because it created a really dense and thick fabric here. And you can imagine that there is an overlapping double knit bands. They actually create 4 layers of fabric, which in a true worsted weight for some people was proving troublesome. Yeah, that's a word on yarn choice. But other than that, I think any DK with a little bit of lace weight of some sort, or even fingering weight with the lace weight held together would work really well. Another thing that is good to pay attention to when you're swatching is that this this yarn combination, after blocking, it didn't retain the elasticity of a ribbing stitch pattern as maybe other yarns would. And one more consequence that other testers noticed is that they perhaps chose a size too small because the gauge they were measuring stretched, hoping that it will stretch out after blocking. But even after blocking, some yarns had the tendency to go back to this really tightly shrunk stage. So instead of an oversized, comfortable sweater, they have a sort of fitted look, which isn't bad. If you like that look, then that's cool. But it's something to pay attention to, like the swatch and blocking of the swatch and how the yarn behaves. If you want a comfortable, if it's a very elastic situation and you want it to be comfortable, then perhaps a size bigger than you initially planned would be a good idea or good recommendation. So yeah, that's about the I forgot to mention the needles that I used. I used a 4mm needle, sorry, 4.5, that is US 7 needles for the main fabric, and then I used 4, and that is US 6 for the collar and the button bands to make them a bit more. Other things that the materials that you would need are, of course, some stitch markers and scissors and tape measure and stitch holders or waste yarn. And to work this button band, you will need, just for simplicity, when picking up stitches to work the one of the sides of the button band, you will need a spare DPN of the smaller size. But other than that, of course, buttons as well, and that is always a hard thing to choose. Yeah, I could probably choose the buttons first, and then it's easier for me to find yarn that works with buttons than to find buttons that work with the yarn. So that's that. All right, I probably have covered the basics, the sizing, the yarns, the gauge, and the materials, and I probably can move on to the construction and the techniques that are used in this sweater, that I love to talk about, because that was my main goal. Was it's a simple looking sweater, right? And if you follow me, my sweaters are majority lately there's a little bit more going on, whether it's a colorwork yoke or some lace panels or whatnot. But for the simple looking sweaters, I try to make it also interesting for me to work on. So it's a top-down seamless construction. And I start, well, anyone who worked on this sweater started with the casting on the back stitches and then shaping the back neckline and the shoulder drop with short rows, working back and forth, and then finally working in one piece down to the underarm, putting stitches on holders, and then picking up stitches for, I guess I started with the left shoulder and worked that down to underarm as well with the same shaping. So there will be some straight knitting, some increases, and some casted on stitches to make this shape and mimicking the shoulder drop of the back until they are worked down to underarm. For sizes 1, 2, 3 or 4, I don't remember, there is no armhole increases, but for the bigger sizes there are some armhole increases as well that are in the pattern, and then everything is joined in the round and worked down to the desired length, and that includes a bit of the base of the button band here. The next thing I worked on was the sleeves, and they are picked up around the armhole. And then so this is the trick that I have discovered that I really like when working on sleeves, and I can hopefully show you how fairly neat this sleeve pickup looks area. So in the past I've picked up, so because of the row versus stitch gauge inconsistency, you usually need less stitches than rows to achieve the same length of or width of fabric. So typically you would pick up 3 out of 4 rows, stitches from 3 out of 4 rows, and like that is pick up 3 and skip 4th or thereof. But what I have found that where you skip the row and don't pick up a stitch, for me it's sort of created this ragged look that I really didn't like, and I'm not sure if I was doing anything wrong or that's just the way it is and people accept it, but I couldn't accept it. So in my patterns lately I instruct to pick up all the stitches for all the rows and then have one more extra round to adjust the stitches, so adjust with decreases, and that for me creates a much neater and more seamless look. So yeah, once that pickup is done and the adjustment is done, and then we work some short rows to also shape the sleeve to avoid the bulging at the underarm. And then it's just worked down straight, not straight, because there are decreases. That means that the sleeve is getting narrower until the wrist, and they are bound off with a stretchy bind off, so that it doesn't, so that it stays as loose as the rest of the fabric. And last but not least, stitches along the neckline are picked up, and the collar is worked in 2x2 rib to double its height, I guess, folded inwards and joined. The live stitches are then bound off by joining to the base of the collar in one seamless motion. So you bind off and join at the same time. There's no seaming required. Oh, that's a lie. There will be a little tiny bit of seaming at the very end, because this the inner side of the collar is then at the very end seamed to the button band. Because when you pick up stitches for the button band and knit it back and forth in double knit, here at the collar it's only picked up from the outer layer, so that sort of means that if I didn't seam it down, I mean, you don't have to, it's fine, there's just a hole, and you can put your whatnot needle or your hand, if you have a small hand, through the collar. But well, I didn't like the hole, so I seamed down the collar sides there. But I guess if you really don't like seaming, and I really don't like seaming, you could leave the hole. And yeah, so button band instructions in the pattern have photo tutorial, if you can call it that. Well, there are photos that show you where you need to start picking stitches up, and there's a video to show how to work this really awesome buttonhole that I just love. It's so neat and so tidy. It's my favorite buttonhole of all. And you can only do that in double knit button bands. That's it about the constructions. I think if there are any questions, I hope I haven't missed any. I think I didn't see any. And if I missed some, please forgive me. I'm still learning this system. Yeah, the techniques that are probably good to be aware of, even though everything is explained in the pattern, all techniques have their own explanations, and as I mentioned, there are photos and videos that support this, the making of this sweater. So just to summarize, that there are short rows, there is backward loop cast on, there is double knitting, there is stretchy and tubular bind off. Hi, I really love testing it. Thank you so much. And then there's another question. What size does your pattern go up to? So there are 8 sizes, and in finished measurements, the range is from 93 centimeters to 166 centimeters. In inches, that would be from 37 to 66 inch chest circumference. So yeah, hopefully that that caters for a wide range of people. What else was I gonna talk about? I think I had, oh yeah, modifications. So because if you wanted to stash bust and you've got a gorgeous worsted weight yarn that you want to use, and I was just talking about how you shouldn't use that, you still can, provided that you're either happy with a really thick button band, or you could just replace the double knit button bands with simple single layer of some ribbing of your choice, and it would still look good, I think. But then, yeah, all the button holes and all the button band instructions would need to be your own, because the pattern doesn't support. Oh, another thing, the pattern assumes that everyone is happy to close the buttons with their left hand. It has instructions for a right hand button band with buttons and a left hand button band with buttonholes. But if you are adventurous, the pattern doesn't help you do that, but it's probably quite straightforward after watching the buttonhole video to make the buttonhole video on either side, and to skip the buttonhole on if you want to swap them. So yeah, I think it's a personal preference or convention or whatever, but in the pattern it's made for left hand closing the button. There is a suggestion that says I knit the bottom band with a smaller needle, and that works too, and it doesn't look so thick. Yeah, okay, that's also a great suggestion. Yeah, I also knit it with a smaller needle. Maybe I didn't. I don't remember anymore. In the pattern there will be instructions, but I definitely worked the collar on smaller needle, and maybe not the button band. But yeah, that's another solution to have it less bulky. It might be a bit more dense and more structured if you work it with a smaller needle, but it's not as bulky and might not be like a 3D effect bulging out on your what's the word, front. Another very easy modification, and that quite a few testers chose to do, was this to adjust for this unconventional way of finishing the sleeves and the body. So there's no ribbing, but it's pretty straightforward to just switch to 2x2 or 1x1 or even twisted ribbing, as long as the stitch count is well, it is an even number for sure. So that is another modification that is quite easy to do, but the pattern doesn't necessarily say, hey, if you want to do ribbing, do it this way. You can use your experimentation and imagination. I've got a question from someone asking, where did you buy the yarn from? Okay, yarn was also chosen by my daughter. I think I forgot to mention that. She went to buy Christmas presents for everybody and went to the only cool yarn shop in Brighton, UK, called Yarn and Knitting, or Yak. And she, I suggested she chooses DK weight yarn, and this is what they shop keepers or whoever was at the shop at the time recommended in the colors that she liked, and yeah, so that's what I had to work with. I did have the mohair, silk mohair, in my stash from, I really don't remember where I got it from, but I think it was on sale and I liked the color. It was in a nice cappuccino coffee latte color, and yeah, we paired that. So that's where the yarn comes from. I think she bought 8 balls and I have exactly 1 of these left, and we made size 3 for her. I also wanted to throw in for the more adventurous people, like and for people who prefer cardigans over pullovers. There is no instruction in the pattern that describes how to do the modification, but it is fairly easy because the joining of the fronts happens at the same time as joining the front and back. So instead of knitting from the right all the way to the left and then back and joining it in the round, you could just knit from the left to the back and to the right, and then continue working flat without casting on the front. And then the button bands will just never have a base, and instead of picking stitches up here, you'd have to cast them on at the bottom and follow the same instructions for joining and making buttonholes as is for the button band. So yeah, if I was making a version of this for myself, I would probably make a cardigan, because I am always hot. Even now, thinking about wearing it, you can see my cheeks are really red. Yeah, I think that is pretty much all I have to say about this pattern. It's coming out middle of next week. And those of you who are newsletter subscribers, you will get a special discount. And if you're not a newsletter subscriber, there's a very easy way to join. Cardigan is a fantastic idea, thanks. Yes, you're welcome. I would love to see if anyone actually makes a cardigan. It's amazing, but from my previous experience with cardigans and double knit button bands, it's deceiving how how the button band actually takes up a very long time to make, because it's double knit and it just takes double the time you think it will take, because there's 2 and yeah, actually 4 layers. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this and this was helpful, and I will see you again in another while for another upcoming pattern or some more news, who knows. And I hope all going through this microphone thing was worth it. Yeah, thank you so much for joining this live and staying to the end, and I hope to see you and hear from you. Just a few more comments that I'll read out. This is such a beautiful classic sweater. Thank you so much. It's very classic, forever modern. A very lucky daughter, beautiful design, and thank you so much. Yeah. Very lucky. she finally got it out of me. Thanks. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I think on Monday is the International Day of Happiness, so I wish you all a very happy Monday as well, and can't wait to share this pattern with you all. And let's make one for the spring. Bye.